There are two kinds of people in the world, people that back up their data and people that will soon learn to back up their data. Hi, this is Tim Patterson, Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee for April 27th, last week of April. We move into May in the coronavirus pandemic age. How you doing? Yeah, I'm doing okay. Doing a lot of interesting, different things. Not a lot of business, but doing some, So I mentioned data backup because it was a recent family gathering. I think around Christmas, I was just chatting with some of the people there, and they were taking pictures of their kids and all that. And I made the question. I asked the question. So, what kind of data backup do you use to make sure you save all the pictures? Because you'd probably hate to lose those pictures, right? And I was very surprised. Almost everyone said none. And I got to thinking. So I suggested a couple, but I got to thinking. I've learned over the years. I've had computers in my life for almost 40 years. I think I bought my first one in either 90 or 92. Okay, that's 30 years, doing the math. But there have been a few times when I went, oh man, I didn't have a backup. Whatever it was, whether it was data, documents, photos, music. You hate to lose that stuff. So it's the old, gee, I wish I had a good backup system in place phase. I've been there. Maybe you're there now, but I would suggest, getting a couple things in place for photos, by the way. And the reason I thought of this is because I got an email from Amazon and they have a new app. Well, it's new to me anyway. I haven't seen it before. It's just Amazon Photos. And it backs up everything on your phone and everything on your computer. You can do all that. And I thought, well, I don't need to do that, but I want to check it out and see how easy it works and all that. I've got Amazon. I've got a Google backup for photos. I've got a Dropbox backup. Everything goes up there, all into the clouds. I got all three. In fact, they're all set to automatically upload everything. And, of course, I have my phone connected to my iMac so that Wi-Fi, whenever I take a picture here, within a few seconds, it shows up on the computer. And not only that, I have a weekly, what would you call it? A local backup. I have a hard drive, like a 5 terabyte that I plug in and turn on the time machine. So everything that's new just gets sucked into that time machine on a weekly basis. I could leave it on all the time, but that's kind of useless. Once a week is plenty. And I have an account with Backblaze for both my laptop and my desktop so that everything, I mean, all the external hard drives and everything gets sucked up into the cloud there, like terabytes and terabytes of stuff. So at this point, it would be hard to lose something. Actually, the the more challenging thing is to try and find it when you need it, if you don't know where it is. Anyway, hi. I have an interesting couple of interviews to share with you this week that relate to kind of what we're all going through. I wanted to talk with a couple of people, creative people, forward-moving people, about how they're dealing with business in this day of stay-at-home, lock them down, shelter it in place, and all of that stuff. So I talked with both Ken Newman in San Francisco of Magnet Productions and Robert Middleton of Action Plan Marketing, a little farther south, down the coast, just out of Santa Cruz, in the small town of Boulder Creek, and both great conversations, not real long, maybe 6 or 8 minutes, kind of remember, but both had some really interesting ideas about what they're doing and what they're sharing. So let's start with Ken of Magnet Productions.
I got plenty to talk about, as you know.
Talking with Ken Newman of Magnet Productions out of San Francisco. Ken, how you doing today? So great to see your face, man.
It's great to see you too. It's great to see a smiling face. And I am, one of the things I say right off the bat, and I tell this to everybody, is, particularly my family, is that I have never, ever, I've always had an appreciation for technology because I'm a little bit of a nerd and I love the stuff. And most of my business is based on the communicating about technology at trade shows. But I have never had such a deep emotional connection to it as I do now. And all kidding aside, I am so grateful for things like Zoom and FaceTime and whatnot. When this went down, my whole family, who I love dearly, is on the East Coast. And I called them up and said, look, I've got this Zoom thing figured out. Why don't we just try to make a plan to talk to each other? And we have a regular Sunday family call, with everybody that's, all of my family in New York and everybody in South Carolina, and my mom gets something. And at the risk of tearing up now, I realized, what the hell was I waiting for?
Right.
I could have been doing this.
Great idea.
I could have been doing this years ago. I could have been saying, hey, I don't get to see you guys more than a couple of times a year, and I love you. I mean, my family and I are ridiculously close. We just adore each other, but we don't talk on the phone as often as I wish. And so now we have this thing on my damn, online in the cloud calendar, so that it's a given. We do this, and if we can't do it Sunday, we do it Monday.
Right.
When
That's
I
a
see
great
my
idea.
son,
I got my mom set up on Zoom. She's got a new refurbished Apple laptop, which she loves. She still doesn't know much about it, but if we can figure out how to get her on Zoom, she's happy,
Yeah, my sister is with my mom. My mom is staying with my sister because her house happened to have flooded just before the pandemic, which is kind of a blessing because she's now with my sister, brother-in-law, and she's got family and dogs and nearby, and everybody taking care of everybody. And it's kind of, as they say in Yiddish, a mitzvah. That's one of the small silver linings behind this. And for me, I mean, it's tough for me emotionally because my girlfriend and I can't be together. She manages a building across town, and she's exposed to a lot of people. And she said, look, it's impossible for me to really shelter in place when I'm taking care of 42 families in this building. Right. So we really can't see each other. And she and I are, like thick. I mean, we travel together all the time, and I adore the woman. And so not being able to see her is pretty tough. And
so are you basically home alone and not going anywhere other than the grocery store? Is that I know you're playing a lot of music online. I see that.
Yeah, I am home as alone as I have ever been. My refrigerator is better stocked than it's been in the 20 years I've owned this house. I've never been alone without companionship or company or whatever for this long a period. Probably since I was, I think, in the womb.
Wow, it's got to be a hell of an adjustment for you, Ken.
Yeah,
all of us.
It's the biggest adjustment I've ever had to make. And I went through this period of kind of shock where I'd wake up in the morning, look outside, have this beautiful view, and it'd be like, wow, it's so what the hell is going on here? And I literally would walk around talking to myself like, this is so ridiculous. I cannot believe I can't do this. And all my favorite restaurants are boarded up. And
so are you getting out and doing walking at all? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, last Sunday, my son and I drove up to Marin County. We went trout fishing. The warden was very cool about it. He said, you're not allowed to drive up here, and you're not allowed to drive. You can't park off the side of the street, but you want to go fishing. And I could never, ever stop a person from going fishing with their son. So I didn't say this, but if you take this piece of paper and you put it on your windshield, it'll look like you got a ticket. You won't have to pay anything. You have to hub it for 2.5 miles. You can't park here. You have to park on the road. And I did. We climbed. We took all of our stuff. Caught 4 rainbow trout, the biggest damn rainbow trout I've ever caught. I mean, huge. They were 14 inches. And because the guy said, look, the lake is, the lake is loaded. He said, nobody's fishing. Wow. He said, so just stay away from people. And we did. There were people up there biking and hiking. So I managed to get out. I have a back deck, so I go out there. But mostly, to answer your question, 2 things have happened. One, I've had to completely reinvent my business. I do, as you know, Magnet Productions produces live trade show presentations at all the big events around the world. All the big events around the world are no longer happening. And I think I'm right about this. I don't think they're going to come back in the same form for about a year. It's going to take that long for people's psychology to shift and to go like, oh, I'm comfortable now standing 3 inches away from somebody without like a hazmat suit on, So as a result, instead of just saying, okay, I want to live on cancellation fees and, and whatever the government is willing to give me, $500 or $1,000 at a time, I realized my original business way back when was doing large scale corporate events, not trade shows, that we were doing a ton of video and film production. Right. My background is in acting. I have a lot of experience editing with Avid and all those old technologies. And so we literally have just hit a rewind on, my business and kind of rebirthed it. We essentially came up with a model of a variety show, happy hour variety show, whatever. And we have packaged that and are now selling that to our clients. We're saying, look, don't think of it as, virtualizing a trade show. Think of it as what is the new way you're going to be able to communicate with your customers. If you've got a database with 35,000 people, you can communicate with them on a face-to-face level. You may not want to do it with, 2,700 PowerPoint slides for 3 hours at a clip. But if it started off like Saturday Night Live does with a cold open, and there was some funny stuff and commercial parodies, and this is all the stuff I used to do for corporate, for Intel, for HP, for Sun, that's how I built our, that's how I bought my first house. But Hewlett Packard was our biggest client. We did 15, 20 shows for them a year, all their live events. HP TV came into being, and they went, oh, we can do, and they had a state-of-the-art facility. second only to Apple TV, which was the most sophisticated production facility in California, if not the United States. People would come up from Hollywood to use it. It was amazing. And they had all the newest digital technology, but it was not sustainable because of the cost. But while it was there, we had it. And we could do these amazing, we did a 12-hour live broadcast with roll-in music videos and stuff. Budgets were like through the roof. I was like, just like, oh my God, Kid in the Candy Store.
Yeah.
And so, but then that stopped. And then I shifted to trade shows because it was more marketing focused and less entertainment or whatever. And now we're going back and saying, remember that stuff we used to do? We can do that again. We can.
So what's
now
the
we've
perception been? I'm just curious. Obviously, you're having to make this transition and reach out and kind of approach people in a different way. What kind of things are you hearing?
It's been amazing, actually. I just yesterday I had a phone call from somebody, and we showed her this little 60-second clip that we had, and we watched it together, and we watched her face go like, oh my God, my boss is going to love this. He is like so out of the box. He is like, we just did this webinar. And it was like completely dead. I mean, nobody was paying attention. I said, look, if you're competing with a cat video, the best thing to do is come up with a really good cat video. Have 3 cats sitting around talking, digitize their mouths and have them talk about technology, whatever. I mean, you just, you keep your friends close, your enemies closer. You figure out what it is that they're, what's stealing share of mind and build that. And so we did. So we started off with, using it as a model for things we were doing. Just for friends, we were just putting together these funny variety shows for friends. And my partner and I looked at it and went, oh, wait a minute, this is it. And so like, if you look behind, I mean, we do them. There's like 17 guitars back here and stuff. So the last one we did had, there was a mixologist talking about cocktails you can make at home. There was a chef. There was an improviser. We had people from Second City. We had somebody doing stand-up. We did games, online interaction. And, with all of this technology, I mean, Zoom right now, they've got polling. We've got, and I figured out how to optimize the audio for music because I do a lot of live shows. So that's that part of it. And it looks like it's going to take off. It looks like it's going to be fine.
So are you doing this virtually from different locations with different people, all aimed toward this particular client and pre-recording?
Yeah, exactly.
Live?
Yep.
I'm just curious.
A little bit of everything. I mean, I've got resources all over the United States. I've got people who have virtual studios at home, people who have actual studios in their home, people who have full green screen, whatever capabilities to do whatever. People, and if I want to bring in a speaker from, whatever, Romania, I'll send them a package and say, this is what it has to look like. Here's how to optimize the sound on Zoom. Here's the chroma key color of the green screen that you need. You can buy that on Amazon. Here's 2 ring lights that you can buy for $40 a piece. Get this package in place. We'll provide it on camera training, a quick training piece, how to talk to the camera without, freaking out. And they go.
Wow.
So
great.
Yeah. So it's,
well, I know you, Ken. I've known you for years, and I knew you would come up with something that would just kind of dive headlong into whatever situation it was and come up with some way to figure out what the next move was. So it's really fun to hear. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but I just kind of wanted to get a nice,
that's
touch,
it. I mean,
nice, dip into what you were actually doing. I was curious about it, so that'd be worth touching base on that. Anything you can add to that at this point?
Yeah, well, just that I mean, that that's the part that sort of makes me feel like, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel and I can probably survive. I mean, this is supposed to be my damn retirement year. I mean, I was really offloading a lot of these responsibilities to a partner of mine, and I was going to sort of cherry pick from the beach in Zihuatanejo or in Italy with my girlfriend, and it was going to be sailing off into the sunset. Well, I'm never going to use the expression again. Boy, I sure hope this thing goes viral. I'm never using that expression again. Right. I'm saying ever, because, a virus did, and that kind of completely upended my plans. However, one of the dreams I always had, and the thing I used to say that people are now teasing me about, is I just wish I had time to do more music. And I have all the time in the world to do music.
Right.
So I started a thing, I've got an album coming out probably in 3 or 4 months called Dreaming of Guns. It's not exactly the most uplifting piece on the planet. I mean, it's got a couple of cute songs. The rest of them are all sort of like, definitely our society is screwed up and this is what we have to do. So it's got that feel. It's very rock focused. So I wanted to do a regular thing using Zoom, using Facebook Live, whatever, and do music, but I didn't really want to depress the hell out of people any more than they already were. So I made a pact with myself. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd say, all right, what song do I really think would be a great song for people to hear right now? And if I don't know it, I'm going to learn it. And I'm going to learn it at 10 o'clock. figure it out by 11, practice it once or twice, and go live at 2:30. And it was originally called the Newman Zone, but I started to call it One and Done, because that's it. It was literally the concert starts at 2:30. At 2:35, I drop the mic and leave.
Goodbye.
And right. And I've got like 25 or 30 songs that I've done. I did Get Together by the Youngbloods. I did Lean on Me.
Bill Withers, it's
Lean on Me. I did, I did, I'm doing a Black Keys tune today. I did, let's see, what else? Lean on Me. I did a couple. I did a John Prine tribute when John died.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I did, everybody was doing Angel from Montgomery. I did Hello in there because it felt appropriate. So this has been a thing that I've done, and that has kept me sane. More than anything else.
As John Lennon said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. So, right.
That is my favorite quote ever. I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly how it feels. Yep.
Ken, I really appreciate your time. It's so great to catch up. We've got to do this again. And I will see you on Facebook, because I don't see every musical thing you do, but I catch them. And of course, we can always replay them too. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'll be doing Your Touch by the Black Keys. It's a really big, fat, saturated guitar sound. So that's today's offering.
Keep your guitars in tune, Ken.
Oh God, that's a full-time job.
I know.
It's great to see you, brother.
Great to see you, brother.
Take care. Hope you're well. Bye.
Thanks again, Ken. Moving right along to Robert Middleton of Action Plan Marketing, who's doing business from his home just outside of Santa Cruz, California. He's been on the show as well. I'll make sure to put the show notes in there so you can track down the original podcast interview I did with him if you'd like to review that. So here's what Robert had to say. I want to welcome Robert Middleton, Action Plan Marketing from the great city of Boulder Creek, California. How are things going with you, Robert, in this great pandemic that we're all kind of muddling through?
Well, things are going surprisingly well. I've been re-energized. The pandemic has put an afterburner on my business.
Really? Tell me about it. I'm curious.
Well, it's not that I'm making 10 times more money or anything, but when it hit, I think the first email I sent out about it was on March 9th. Actually, that was my birthday. And then I thought, talked to more people, read 10 million things like everybody else, and said, I need to do something to be of service right now. What could I do? And so I decided to do these radically virtual marketing webinars. And what can you do during the pandemic? How do you get out there? How do you communicate more? And all of that kind of stuff. So I'm sort of trying to model it myself, doing what I'm doing. And I'll tell you a few of the things that I'm suggesting people do and some of the stuff I'm doing.
Yeah, love to hear. Absolutely.
So the first thing I said is, I think at a time like this, it's a good time to ramp up communication. You don't want to hide. Now, a lot of people are doing that. After all, we see a lot of people are sending out emails and this, that, and the other thing, which is good. Some of them are kind of generic, but better to be visible and show that I'm being helpful as opposed to hiding and hoping things will change.
Right.
And we don't know how long this pandemic is going to go on. So ramping up communication. So, it went from 1 or 2 emails a week to 3 or 4 emails a week.
Gotcha.
But always with some value. One night I said, yes, I want to do a new newsletter. And at 12 o'clock at night, I had a eureka. I came to my office and I designed the template. And I even saw the font, for God's sake. It's called the Radically Virtual Update. Ta-da! There you go. And so, so I send that out and promote my new webinars under that banner, the Radically Virtual Webinars. And the other piece is we'd already been doing this in our group programs. We have 2 group programs going on now. One just started, one is finishing. And we've been getting people to get more meetings with people, even if they aren't perfect prospective clients. And I'll tell you something, this has been the most successful strategy I've ever used in my business in 35 years.
Really? And I can actually imagine why that would work. Because if you're not looking for the perfect client, you're just looking to practice and go through the motions, and you might land a couple. That's kind of how I'm viewing it.
Yeah, and I don't even think of it that way. Let me tell you how this came about. I read this article called 50 Coffees by a guy named Michael Elling. I just came across it accidentally on a social media thing, and I read it, and it was like a eureka moment. And he said, essentially, anytime I have a big project or I want to make something happen or I just want to get my thinking straight, I set up 50 coffee meetings. Now, mostly those are meetings in person over coffee, but you can do virtual coffee meetings. And he said, anytime I do that, I'm sharing resources, ideas, looking for ideas, sharing ideas. And the meetings are 20 minutes to 30 minutes long.
Right.
Simple. And he says, anytime you want to produce a result, I know of no better way than to do that.
Interesting.
And I said, so I read this and I said to my group, why don't we try this? Because a lot of the stuff we've been doing in terms of trying to reach the perfect person, we're failing dreadfully. If you're trying to reach the perfect person who doesn't know you, they are not the perfect person, because people don't want to talk to strangers.
Right.
People don't want to do cold calls. So first of all, we started calling lots of past clients, and people we have past clients. When was the last time you called them? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 5 years. Well, these people know, like, and trust you already. So you send an email and you say, hey, John, was just thinking of you. We haven't talked in a long time. How you doing right now? Hey, I have a few ideas I'd like to run by you. Love to chat. So, really simple emails.
Right.
And I teach people that, and then they'd write an email that was 16 paragraphs. They say, no, really.
You need 4 lines.
Really, a 4-line frickin' email. And then I said, look, I'm going to try it too. So I started to send out emails like this to past connections, and I got 100% response.
Wow.
Everybody wanted to talk. And so I talked to people I hadn't talked in 10 years and recently, and people I've done stuff with, and, and some of that is future business. But the thing that people are getting, they're getting 2 main things, or sometimes more than that. You start to get inspired in connecting with people, just instead of being in your friggin' head all the time, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I can see that.
So I say do 4 things in these calls: share ideas, insights, resources, and connections. And you might say, hey, I'm looking for referrals to this group. I'm looking for ideas about this. How can I help you? I have some ideas. So I connected with someone recently, someone whose website I did 20 years ago. She's gone on to be an internationally famous author and consultant. And it was actually the first face-to-face meeting we'd ever had. We'd only had phone meetings before. And we had this fantastic conversation, and I shared some resources for you, and she asked, well, how can I help you? And so, things happen out of conversations. We have to remember that the currency of business is conversations. And if we're not having conversations, so better to have a lot of conversations. Sooner or later, some of those turn into business. So I was just talking to a client before you, and she says, I'm doing a lot of virtual coffee meetings right now. She's really cranked it up. And she says, I'm not trying to sell now. We're in coronavirus, and trying to sell now, right now, is heavily especially, is not very appropriate. Yeah. Just how you doing? What's happening? How can I help? How can I be a resource? And she said 2 potential clients came out of those meetings in the last week, just without trying. Because often you're talking and say, look, tell me, you're doing that. Have you thought about this? And blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, can you help me with that? So you're giving away some of your time and your energy and your insight. And it's just revitalized me, my business, my clients. And we were doing this before pre-pandemic. So we were ready to go when we hit the pandemic. And so, and now you put in your, in your email, how you doing in the pandemic, got enough toilet paper right now.
Well, I can see how that would be effective because A, there's no pressure. If you go into it saying, I'm not going to sell this guy anything or this woman anything. So you just say, I'm just going to have a conversation and I want to share a couple things. And who knows what I get out of it. So it's less friction to the call. It's just, let's have a little chat, and I'm really happy you were able to spare that time. That's why I wanted you on this. So I was curious to see what you were doing, and I figured you were doing something creative. So.
Yeah, well, at some point in the call, you might say, I have a new idea that might work for you. Let me know if you're open to that or whatever.
Yeah. And you're doing these like over Zoom mostly?
Mostly Zoom.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Gotcha.
once in a while on the phone.
Cool.
And then I created this little model. You see this? Connect,
Yes. Connect, develop,
develop,
reconnect, redevelop.
develop. And I've discovered that when I'm meeting with people, including clients, I'm always getting ideas. So often those ideas just sort of go nowhere. So, they're turning into articles, they're turning into webinars, they're turning into infographics, God knows what, videos. So, you take the energy from a conversation, you ask, could I turn that into something, a short article? Maybe it's simply a post on LinkedIn or Facebook or something. Develop an idea. And then, you talk to more people and that idea gets developed. That's how I came up with my marketing ball model years ago. When I used to meet with people, I'd always have a pen, I'd always have a piece of paper, I was drawing stuff. I just did that automatically. And so I've been doing this kind of thing for ages. You talk, and that evening that I did that with that client, I went to my computer, created my first marketing ball diagram, and now I've been using it for 20 years as the major thing in my business. So we have this idea that geniuses come up with this great ideas in isolation. No, they come mostly through conversations.
I would
Someone says
hardly
something,
agree.
you go,
Yeah.
yes, that's a great idea, or you get an idea from an article or whatever. And so that's what I encourage people to do.
That's
Talk
really cool,
to
Robert.
more
Yeah.
people.
I think that's a
And
great approach.
Use that to develop more of your ideas and then get those ideas out there. And it's a very powerful cycle for being in communication.
And I think if you share without expecting something back, chances are you get something back. But if you don't worry about it. That's the way to do it.
That's the mindset for it. And no
Very
matter
nice,
what
Robert.
your business you're in, you can do that.
Yeah. I appreciate you spending some time. I didn't want to have a really long conversation. We can do that later, but this is perfect.
Forever, but
I know you could, and that's why I had you. But I knew you'd have something nice to share. And again, I appreciate you taking time to do that. Thanks again, Robert. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome.
And thanks again to both Robert and Ken. Really appreciate it. Some Bay Area folks doing business and trying to figure out what the next move is, and getting pretty creative. I kind of like the ideas, and I'm going to use some of those. I'm going to get inspired by all that stuff. So I need a little inspiration, and that was good. So thank you both again. This week's one good thing. I just got an email as I'm recording this from the Foo Fighters. I'm on their list, and they're replaying a live concert from 2006, Hyde Park, London. And I'm a big Foo Fighters fan, so I checked it out, and I thought, you know what, this will probably still be on their page, so I grabbed the link, and I'm just going to include that here on the show notes as this week's one good thing. It's a fundraiser, and who knows, maybe when you review this a few days later after the concert, you can still watch the concert and maybe even donate to their fundraiser. But it's the Foo Fighters live in concert in Hyde Park, 2006. Loud and raucous, the way I like it. Have yourself a great week. Be safe.